Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bookish Hour. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am J.C. Kenney, and we have a very special guest tonight. Actually, we have two very special guests tonight. We're celebrating us. So,
Yes.
Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish.
Yes, we are welcoming ourselves to the show. So,
Yes.
and I've just been really looking forward to this because it has been a while since JC, you and I really just got to chat about our work and what's going on. One thing that's really wonderful about this platform is that we get to meet all of these amazing authors and hear about all of these fascinating projects, but also these really cool processes that people use when they're writing their books. It's always such an inspiration. And I'm really excited to kind of hear what's new in your writing world, because you've had a pretty big week recently with the release of A Murder Under the Marquee, which is your second Elmo Simpson mystery.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
just as fun and delightful as the first one, with even kookier characters. Absolutely loved it. I can't wait to dive in more. Saying hello to our wonderful viewers who are joining us this evening. We've got Farmhouse Reader, we've got DHB, we've got Susan, we've got Sawdust. Everybody, hello, welcome.
Hey, folks.
You are here for really like an OG Bookish Hour, because when we started this enterprise, gosh, 4 years ago now, it was just the two of us chatting about what was new in our world. So we're excited to be able to go back to basics tonight and catch up.
It is. And Sarah, you've got some news also, maybe not necessarily books, but bookish covers, that I see there on your background now. You've got the background updated. And so I'm kind of very curious to find out, first off, folks, if you haven't read the Court of Mystery series, you're wrong. You need to fix that now, because it is fabulous. I'm not just saying that because I adore Sarah, but I do, of course. These books are just so much fun because they're fabulous whodunits, but since they're set in this fantasy world, it really takes us someplace literally different, the Court of Virtues, and I just think it's so exciting that, Sarah, you wrapped the series up a little bit ago with Jax's final adventure. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm really curious to dive into how it felt finishing that off, because I've done 6 books, and that was a lot of work, and it was kind of heart-wrenching to finish that. You did 12, and so many things that went on, and now we have updated covers that I'm dying to find out what the what prompted that. So folks, we got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to shut up here and turn it back over to Sarah while I have a celebratory drink here. Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
It just looks like soda pop. It's got rum in it, so I'm going to go where it's warm.
I was just telling JC before we went live, folks, you have to forgive any odd facial expressions that I might be making. I just received some mushroom coffee, and I'm trying it out just because I needed a little bit of a pick-me-up for our show this evening. And it's interesting. It's not as awful as I thought it would be, because I am not a fan of mushrooms, but it's kind of weird. So it's I know that I'm not drinking coffee, I'm drinking mushrooms, but so just heads up, I'm not going to be making faces because we're talking about JC's amazing book. I'm making faces because my coffee tastes weird. So speaking of amazing books, Murder Under the Marquee, let's just dive in, because I've been waiting to talk about Elmo's next adventure for forever. It's so gorgeous. Those covers are they're so vibrant and they're so full of life, which Paradise Springs is just Oh my gosh. It's just a place that I can't help but smile, even though like we're dealing with murder, and Elmo has just got to be the most affable, like wonderful person in the entire world. I love his perspective. And I mean, there aren't a lot of men in the cozy mystery genre. I don't think that that's a big secret. And I just love that even though Elmo is a man, I'm just like, he's so relatable. He's such a wonderful human being. And it's like, wow, like there could be more. There should be more, because it's just like, he's just such a fabulous character. And, he's got a heart of gold. To set the stage, JC, do you want to kind of give our viewers just a little bit of a overview of what Elmo, like why Elmo is like so quick to jump into his second case, because he does it without like any questions asked?
Yes. So, well, first off, Sarah, those are so kind of you to say, and I'm glad that you are enjoying Elmo. And I will say that a lot of people consider Lillian Jackson Brown to be kind of the godmother of the modern cozy mystery. And for what it's worth, her amateur sleuth was newspaperman Jim Quillerin. So, it's like kind of Elmo's kind of, if we're going to do a little finding your roots kind of thing, Elmo can kind of trace his roots all the way back to Quill. But anyway, one of the things that happens in book 2 with Murder Under the Marquee is when we meet Elmo, he's hanging out with his good friend Goob, and there is word that another murder has happened in the town. And so Elmo's like, oh, wow, kind of a bummer, but, not my business. And so he ends up, curiosity gets the best of him. So he kind of goes to check it out, as, folks do in Paradise Springs. And the chief of police, Susan Eikenberry, who is kind of a frenemy, she is, you don't mess with Susan. Her heart is always in the right place. She is law enforcement true and true. And she wants to know from Elmo where his girlfriend Nicola is, because Nick was seen the previous night getting in an argument with the murder victim. And Elmo was like, well, no, I mean, there's no way that my girlfriend Nick would murder anybody other than me, maybe.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah, and so Elmo is like, no, as Elmo struggles with commitment. He has struggled with that ever since coming to Paradise Springs. He and Nick have been on again, off again for a long time. What he really did in stepping up and solving the murder in book 1, Panic in the Panhandle, really sent a message to Nick that for the first time in her life since she had come to know Elmo, he didn't take the easy way out of something. He stuck to his guns, and so she that meant a lot to her, and so she kind of gave him a second chance, because as we open book 1, they're on the outs. So as we open book 2, they're still together, and now Nick's in a bit of spot of trouble because the police want to talk to her, and he was like, no, I don't care. Sure, if you want to talk to her, that's fine, but I don't care what you say. I know she didn't do it, and I'm going to prove it. And because not only does he have a loyalty to Nick as his girlfriend, but also we are coming into the super, super busy time of the 4th of July celebration in Paradise Springs. Everybody is super busy, and Elmo is a little afraid, not a little, a lot afraid, that if word gets out that Nick is wanted for murder, her own small business, which she's a charter boat captain, is going to take a hit. And so he doesn't want that to happen. So yeah, he is more than willing to jump in, put his amateur sleuth cap back on, and try to find out who the real murderer is of a really kind of a friend also of Elmo. Her name is Desiree, or was Desiree LaFontaine. And it's kind of one of those things where a lot of things come together for Elmo. People think Nick may have done it. Elmo knew Desiree. He liked her. He hates to see that she was found, evidently maybe stabbed to death. And so, yeah, he's back on the case.
There's so many things that I love about the setup of this mystery. The first being that our victim is somebody that we actually care about. I do this to a fault. I like to kill off people that people really are like, oh, I'm glad that person's dead. But I like to read about people who I'm like, oh, like, I'm really sad that they're not around anymore. And Nick especially has like a really deep connection to Desiree, especially where they were basically almost partners in their business. And the fact that Desiree was just kind of pulled away because of, she was kind of with this other business coming into town that offered her a lot of money. It's like there's loyalty, and then there's like, I can't afford to pass up this opportunity. Right, and so that it's just like so sad because there's this bad blood between them, even though there was also so much love. And you can tell that really haunts Nick. And I think that, their relationship really kind of shines a light on the softer side of Nick. And I know that Elmo, he often, I love the comparison where it's like they're watching a sappy movie and Elmo's the one with the tissues and Nick is like, no nonsense. But we get to see like a more 360 view of her because, she's not, she is tough as nails, but she's also like, she's human. And so I thought that was like a really beautiful way to showcase the relationships, the people within the town, how much everybody is affected by the death of one of their own. And we have a question from one of our viewers. Sawdust is asking, JC, Elmo sounds like a similar character profile as Joe Hardy. Is there any connection or extension there from your childhood reads?
I don't know. I'll confess I didn't read the Hardy Boys as a kid. So I read lots of sports books when I was a kid. I didn't get into mysteries and whodunits until I got into high school. So yes, I'm one of those horrible people. I didn't read, Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys or Encyclopedia Brown. So I apologize to the mystery community for that. I think one of the things that Elmo kind of comes from just trying to find. One of the things that I've always tried to do with my main characters is have them be, as I've said a long time about my first characters when I was writing in romance years ago, that I want my characters to be the type that you as a reader would like to hang out and have a drink with. Just because they're approachable, they're basically kind, good people. They're real because they've got their challenges, as we all do. But at the end of the day, I want my main characters to be people that readers care about, So I think Elmo is, to a certain degree, he's, the beach bum vibe that he gives off, the slacker vibe that he gives off is what I would like to do, if I could. But at the same time, there's that, he has a moral compass. And I think that's something that we as mystery fans really enjoy, is that, we appreciate those people who have that moral compass and who are willing to say, no, this is wrong. Something, a wrong has been done, and, a terrible wrong in this case, and I'm going to do what I can to make it right.
One thing that it's been a while since I read Panic in the Panhandle, so I can't quite remember how much of Elmo's past was revealed in book one. But one thing that I found to be very, very cool is that we learn a little bit more about Elmo's life prior to Paradise Springs and just how much money this man is sitting on. Because in addition to having to deal with his critter removal business, he's also become the owner of the local hotel resort that is in town. And I am all for. I totally agree about creating characters that we want to like sit down and have a drink with. But I also just love like how we can create characters that people can look up to and like strive to be like, or just like emulate like good human beings. And the fact that like Elmo has this money that he wants to do good with is just like, it was just like a balm to my soul about like somebody who has money that wants to do good in the world. Like I love reading about it. And so I'm curious, when you were actually like developing Elmo's character, was that always a part of his backstory, or was it something that like kind of grew as you began toying with the notion of this, creature removal specialist? Like, was he always going to have this like crazy background?
No, from the get-go, he was always going to have the tech background where, and where I don't want to get ahead of myself, but in book 3, we even go further into his past, and not necessarily such a good way. But yeah, so I always knew that I wanted a character who, as with all of my main characters, if you've read any of my mysteries, my characters they tend to struggle with some sort of emotional or mental baggage, because of their past, because we all have things we struggle with every day. And that's important to me to share that on the page, because I live with depression, and my older kid has their struggles too. And so one of the things that I wanted to do about Elmo was to have a way for him to have a successful past, but present him in such a way now that he kind of is able to do what he wants to do. Because one of the things, as especially cozy mystery writers, we will talk about this often, is that we love our amateur sleuths being able to have jobs where they can kind of drop anything at a moment's notice and go investigate, because that's convenient. And it's a plot device, and I think all of us who write these stories will admit that. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to do with Elmo, is kind of give him something that gave him the flexibility to go out and investigate. But at the same time, I also wanted to make sure that he still had a real job, because at the same time, I think it's also the reality that, in trying to pull on a little bit of a thread of reality, at least, that it's like, okay, yeah, we got jobs, we all have jobs in the real world, and so we don't have that flexibility. We're not like Nero Wolfe, where we have all the money in the world, and we can just sit in our study and tell Archie Goodwin to do stuff for us. And so I think it's one of those things that was one of the first things I wanted to do was, Elmo has a past. Yes, he's got a bunch of money. And that has allowed me to kind of tease that out through the series, because one of the things that he's done is, while he has all this money, he knows what he wants to do with it when the time comes, and that's what he does in book 2. There's an opportunity to help the community, this community that he literally escaped to while running from his past. And so when the Seabreeze Resort needed a new owner, he had the means to step in. And he did his best to keep it quiet, because he didn't want people to know about it, because it's not about, for Elmo, it's not about him. It's about, trying to be there for his community, because he knows these people and he cares about them. And so that's one of that I think what drives him is recognizing that he, despite the challenges that he had in his former career, he is very fortunate to be where he is now. And so he wants to do what he can to be there for his community.
And he's there like in a heartbeat. He's just such a lovable guy. But there are so many lovable characters in this installment. And you had mentioned, we as cozy mystery authors, like using plot devices of having these kind of careers that we can either drop at, or that we can go out and do something at the drop of the hat, or we can shift our responsibilities to a young apprentice or somebody else that is in our orbit. I remember that when I was first writing the Glenmeyer Whim mysteries, I was like, I need somebody else to be in Hazel's candle shop with her, because like she can't just be closing all the time by herself. And so that's how Iggy came about. And then we even added more people into the mix. And I have to say that Jordan was like one of my like favorite new people that you've introduced. You know, there's so many returning favorites for me, and we'll get into them a little bit later. But I just really love Jordan. I love his unique skill set and how it is like perfectly attuned to being in the critter removal business. So JC, while you tell us a little bit about Jordan and kind of what he brings to the table, I would also like to challenge our viewers to let us know, have you ever had to have a critter removed from your home, your apartment, what have you? Did you have to do it yourself? Did you have to call somebody? Were there any fun shenanigans that took place? I very much know that I've had a couple throughout my life that thankfully I myself didn't have to do it, but it's such a wild business. So tell us about Jordan, why he's involved, and how like Elmo is like, this is the guy that I need.
It is a wild business, and there's a true story behind it here at my own home, how, we had a wild animal removal specialist a number of years ago come and help us out. But yeah, so one of the things with, like, to your point, Sarah, is that when we're writing series, we get to introduce new characters, and it is a lot of fun. And so Elmo, we find Elmo is beginning to kind of transition away from the day-to-day work of the critter removal business, because he's finding that, oh man, I've got this, hotel, this resort that I'm going to have to take care of and manage, or at least be the figurehead of. And at the same time, Elmo has also found that his critter removal business has gotten a bunch of new business because people have heard about him because of the murder that he solved in the first book. So sorry, I'm not used to talking all this at once. So he realizes that he needs to bring on, like that apprentice, like somebody to work with him. And one of the fun things about Paradise Springs, since it is a center of weirdness in North America, is you've got all the bizarre characters. You've got unicyclists. You've got, hustlers. You've got people who sing opera. You've got people who may or may not be real, soothsayers or mimics. You've got all kinds of buskers and street performers. And Elmo meets Jordan one time when Jordan is doing his thing. Jordan is a contortionist. And Elmo remembers thinking at the time, it's like Jordan's skill set just left Elmo's jaw on the floor. What he could do by, he's tall, he's thin, but the way, he could make himself into little teeny tiny boxes and pick things up with, limbs that you shouldn't be able to do, that just blew Elmo's mind. And when Elmo decided he needed somebody, he started talking with some of his friends, and Jordan's name came up because people knew Jordan as the street performer, but was also kind of a decent guy. And so Elmo went and talked to him. And it was one of those things where, because of Jordan's skill set as a contortionist, Elmo kind of thought, this guy would be really good at getting into little nooks and crannies, and whether it's in crawl spaces or attics or underneath trailers or things like that, it could be, that's a skill set that, Elmo could really use. And so he approaches Jordan about the opportunity and promises Jordan that, hey, if you come work for me, this would be great. I'd like to think I'm pretty easy to work with, and you can still keep doing your contortionist job. I don't want to, get in the way of that. So he does. And Jordan is inquisitive. He's bright. He's, very quick. And he decides that, to the best of his ability, he wants to also kind of help Elmo solve this murder. And he does. There are a couple of things that he brings to the table that really help Elmo figure out who done it. And so, to a certain degree, it's kind of like your squad in your DM Me for Murder
Yes.
group, Sarah, because it's like, okay, Elmo is beginning to kind of get this crew together.
Get the team,
where, they kind of work together and fight the good fight. So yeah, Jordan's a lot of fun. He's fun to write because he's kind of one of those characters that I can kind of do anything with, because he's not, yes, he's still, I've just barely scratched the surface with him. Let's put it that way.
I know that because he's so good at interacting with people, like even the tough customers with Chef Claudia, and the fact that Elmo's just like, okay, Elmo's basically dismissed so that she can speak with Jordan. But the thing that I was like really struck by, and I was just like, it was such a small moment, but I was like, it just like pierced my heart, is when Elmo was out kind of looking at the shelters where he'll put like injured animals and let them like rest and recuperate before he releases them back into the wild. He's like, ever since Jordan started working for me, like I don't have as many injured animals. And it's probably because like he's able to like get them out because of his skill set and just be like, it just revealed his like kind, gentle soul. I absolutely loved it. I was like, yay, he's saving the animals. So we've got DHB saying catching a bat that flew in the front door with a butterfly net was a bit more of a challenge than expected. That sounds terrifying. We have Sawdust saying,
thank goodness she had a butterfly net. Oh man.
Sawdust saying a hummingbird flew into the boat shop and hung out for a bit and then left on their own.
That would have been cool.
Yes, and that's what they say. Not sure if that counts, but it was cool. It's like, hey, if the hummingbird is able to take care of himself, like that's all the better. I think my most recent run-in with a wild creature, it was so bizarre. Evie and I were in the garage in our apartment building, which is in the in the ground. It's like the basement level. And we were walking toward the elevator, and all of a sudden we see what we thought was a stray cat. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I love cats. And Evie was like, oh my gosh, it's a cat. And we like kind of go up closer to it. And it was like a very skinny, mangy raccoon. And I was just like, oh God. And he's just like looking at us like with his big eyes, and Evie just like stops like, that's not a cat. And we just kind of like back into the elevator and go away. There's like a raccoon that like lives in like the piping of the basement. So we got to see him in person, and I love raccoons. I think they're like the cutest little things.
They are.
I just
a
hope.
couple of summers ago, we had a family of raccoons who hung out in the tree in our backyard for a couple of months, and then they moved on, and that's what they do. And so it was lovely because, it's like, okay, wildlife and all that kind of stuff. A couple of times they left us little presents on the back steps that weren't the most pleasant. I think that was maybe their way of saying, hey, if you're not going to give us any free food, we're just going to leave you some gifts here. So, but raccoons are just so cool. They're delightful.
I love animals so much. And I love that there's not only do we have the wild animals, but we have Oscar in all of his glory, and how he's such a delightful character in the fact that like everybody loves Oscar. Like there's no one in Elmo's circle that's like, oh, like I'm not into cats. Like they all love Oscar. I do have a question for you because we've got. I gotta list them off. We've got Rambo. We've got Seven. We've got Goob. Why is Wendell's name Wendell? Because I was like, why does Wendell not have like a wild name? Because he's just got his like Wendell.
Well, that's a really good. I don't know. That's just his name.
That's just who he is. It's always so funny in like the scenes where they're all together, where it's like everybody's names are getting displayed, and then it's like, and Wendell.
Well, and the thing is, when I came up with his name, I'll be honest, I was more focused on the Banderas part because I was so excited. I was told myself that I'm going to use this line where he's going to introduce himself that, hi, I'm Wendell Banderas, and, no, I'm not related to Antonio. And it's never really quite fit in the book, in any of the books. And so I was so fixated on the Banderas part that, it's just, but that's Wendell. He is who he is, and he can make some mean barbecue, and so with a name like with a skill like that, he can call himself whatever he wants.
Exactly. And when you have a daughter like Seven, it's like you don't even need like like she's just everything. She's one of my favorite characters. There was a line in this one where Elmo was like, I think I have a little bit of a crush on her. And Nick is also like, I think I do too. And I was just like, those two and I are on like the same wave. It's like, she's such like, she's so cool. There's something about her that I just love. But a character that really stood out for me this time around that really grew on me was Officer Nimoy. And there's something about him that his drive and his sweet innocence, but also like he knows that he's on the struggle bus a little bit. Like he was so endearing, and I loved how Elmo was kind of like encouraging him along in his journey and kind of being there to be like, I'm going to give you some hints. And it was just like a really cool, it was another cool relationship to see develop, because you mentioned that, Chief Eikenberry, like she's a little bit of a frenemy, although like she's like the best frenemy in the world, because I just really love her too. She reminds me so much of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Karen from Psych. Chief.
Oh yeah.
What is her last name?
Juliet?
Nope. Juliet is the detective. Who's Karen, the chief, the interim chief?
Right. Yes. Kirsten Nelson.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't believe I can't think of her name either. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, that's who I picture. And so, Chief Vic. Yes. And I love her, and I love Elmo's relationship with law enforcement in the town of Paradise Springs. Can you tell us a little bit about the other establishments that we get to visit in this particular installment? Because there are some characters. The places themselves are characters as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that I had a really good time with in writing Murder Under the Marquee was introducing folks to the Magnificent Marlin. It's a 3-level entertainment center. There is a beach bar on the first basement floor that leads out right on the beach. There's a nice family-friendly restaurant on the main second floor. And then on the third floor, it's a nightclub. And so it's kind of the new kind of hot spot of the Paradise Springs party scene, because one of the things that the town is going through, for better or for worse, is that Elmo's investigation in the murder that is the center of Panic in the Panhandle kind of puts Paradise Springs on the map. So one of the things that's happening in book 2 is that it's going from this sleepy little, kind of not really a resort town because everybody else goes to either Destin or Panama City Beach or things like that. People have heard about Paradise Springs, so a lot more people are going there. And so the opportunity has arisen for this new nightclub, and it's really popular. People love it. It's run by the Farrell sisters, Meryl, Beryl, and Cheryl, and who may or may not be witches. That's the thing about Paradise Springs. We never really know for certain the true backstories about some of these folks. But it's also where the murder victim Desiree is found. She's found right outside of the Magnificent Marlin. So that's kind of one of the big new places that was introduced. That was a lot of fun to write, because I based it on a real life place down in Miramar Beach, Florida, called the Whale's Tail. And the Whale's Tail only has 2 floors, but it still has, if you've read Murder on the Marquee, thank you. If you haven't yet, you know what you need to do. Go buy the book and then read it, and then we'll talk about it later. But the Magnificent Marlin has stairs that go up the side of the building. It's got this open, like I said, the open beach bar. And so a lot of the things that I put into the Magnificent Marlin is actually taken from the real life Whale's Tail. And so that was a lot of fun to be able to kind of take some of the real life things that I've been able to enjoy on vacation and put it into the book. So that's a fun one. One maybe not quite so fun is that I mentioned is a tough kind of divey bar called the Boar's Head that we will actually get into more in book 3. And so that's kind of one of the things. We also get to experience the Paradise Springs Pier a little bit more, more firsthand. In the first book, it's maybe kind of mentioned, but here in the second book, we have a really interesting scene with another really interesting character, Don Espada, who, again, may or may not be a mafia Don, and so it's just, when I started writing this series, I said, I'm not going to be bound by any rules. If I can turn something up to 11, I'm going to try to turn it up to 12. And so, so that's the spots keep getting weirder. That's why one of the main characters is who may be a suspect, or who actually is a suspect, is named Bobby Darin. Totally stolen from the 60s pop singer. And it's just, having fun with the silliness.
I literally, when I was like putting together my notes for tonight, I wrote Don Espada and like circled it a bajillion times, because the end of that scene, I'm not going to spoil it. The end of that scene, I was literally cackling aloud at, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's so fun, so wild. And just like, even though it's like, I have a hard time like feeling like I totally believe that this place is real. Like, even though it's like this, like we're talking about witches, we're talking about vampires, we're talking about, all of these crazy types of people and things. It's like, I still feel that it could be real. And I just love it. And I'm so looking forward to seeing what's next for Elmo. Do you have any like teasers about book 3? I know you mentioned that we're going to dig a little bit more into Elmo's backstory.
I realize this is backwards.
Ooh.
There you go. Dead in the ditch.
Dead in the ditch. It's actually comes through like correctly on our side, JC. So it looks beautiful.
Yeah, awesome.
Again, the colors are just too perfect.
I am so lucky. Thule Publishing has done a fabulous job with my covers. I can't thank them enough. But yeah, Dead in the Ditch comes out May 4th, so it's coming right around the corner.
Oh wow.
Book 3. It's actually available for pre-order, so it's not any kind of spoiler. If I mention that, Elmo's past in his prior career does come back to haunt him in this story, when one of his former partners is Elmo actually finds this guy literally dead in a ditch on Elmo's resort property. Ooh. And so, the first thought is it's Elmo. Once Elmo realizes who the murder victim is, and the police begin to put the pieces together that Elmo's previous life didn't end well, and the murder victim played a large role in that he's a suspect. And so now he's like, instead of, being able to come to Rambo's aid or Nick's aid, he's got to figure this out for himself. So it was really fun because we get to learn more about Elmo's past. And also there are some kind of interesting little twists that I just can't, wait for you all to see what happens this time around. So
I can't wait either.
Yeah. Thank you. So, and by the way, folks, like kind of Sarah mentioned, we're just kind of winging it tonight since we don't have a guest. And since we're about halfway through, actually past halfway through, we need to turn this around and talk about Sarah's, what's going on with Sarah. But before we do that, it's giveaway time. So, so I want to give away an e-copy of Murder Under the Marquee. And so the magic word, folks, you know the deal. That for those of you who don't know the deal, Sarah, you kind of want to tell them what the routine is here?
Yes, folks, all you have to make sure to do is that you're logged into your Google or YouTube account. On our chat, you just need to type in the magic word. At the end of the hour, we will pull the folks who have entered in and reveal our winner. And we'll ask you to reach out to our email address with the email that you'd like us to send the book to.
Yes. And the magic word is, I'm going on making a real stretch here, beach.
Beach. Nice.
Yes.
I think we could, I was like, oh man, what are we going to be spelling today? Because I was like, marquee is, I was like, sometimes I spelled marquee a little bit strange. But
yeah.
So beach is a good one. So that'll be, so folks, make sure that you type in the word beach. We will announce our winner in about 20 minutes. Jeez, time flies when we're having fun.
Yeah. So enough about me. Sarah, we're going to put you in the hot seat now. First, I want to talk about, you do have book number 4 in your book blogger series. No,
Trending Topic Mysteries.
Yeah, trending topic. I'm sorry. Like I said, I didn't prepare for this. So can you give us some because I can see the 3 right there just over your shoulder. Can you tell us a little bit about book number 4?
Book number 4 is I'm calling it Coco's Metamorphosis because it's actually a big metamorphosis for Central Shores as well, because at the very beginning of the book, we are having the grand opening of the Central Shores Community Center, which is the police, paramedics, and fire department, like big public service building. So the police are getting a nice big upgrade. They're getting more people on staff. And it's because of all of the development that they've had in just like the past year, where a bunch of woodlands had been purchased, all of these development companies that are kind of explored a little bit in DM Me for Murder. All of those homes that were built are now getting filled. And Central Shores' population is doubling, if not more. And it's funny because JC, you had mentioned Paradise Springs is kind of put on the map because there's this murder here and people are like, let's go visit this place where there's a murder. Central Shores has never had any issues with crime until the past couple years. And now it's like, oh, well, let's go live in this place where murders are happening all the time. But they get solved really quickly. So maybe that speaks to why folks are so eager to live there. So it's this big festival celebration to, celebrate the opening of the CSC. Unfortunately for Charlotte, a blast from her past comes back to really haunt her. And when that individual dies shortly later, all signs are pointing to Charlotte.
No, I don't believe it.
It's Charlotte's time to shine. She has, I've always kind of, in the series, she's always been kind of like the level-headed, reasonable one to kind of rein Coco and Jasper in when they're out doing their shenanigans. But this time we kind of learn why she's this responsible human being who is, she's just a good person. And her backstory was really kind of heartbreaking to explore. There's some really, really heavy topics that I kind of delve into. And JC, you had been talking about, your main characters have, this emotional or mental challenges that they are working through. Coco's been exploring those on her side, but now we're kind of diving into her greater circle. And it was really tricky because, wanting to be respectful, but also wanting to be real, and sharing these experiences. It's a really emotional roller coaster for a cozy mystery. But gosh, it has one of the best scenes that I've ever written in it as well. That's just fun and silly and over the top ridiculous. And I cannot wait for people to read it because it's my favorite thing that I've ever written.
Excellent.
So I'm really excited. It comes out May 25th. I'm holding off on the title reveal when I have my cover so that I can shout it to the world what I've been working on. So yeah, I'm really excited. There's also a new character that's introduced into the Sleuth Squad that I'm super, super excited for folks to meet.
I have a little bit of a crush on Charlotte. I'm way too old for her. I realize that.
I think you are not alone because I mean, she's perfect. That's her thing. And it's how is she so perfect? And yet we find out that even the people who seem to have it all together have stuff going on that they are warring with. So yeah, I'm really excited for people to see kind of a deeper side of her.
Well, that's cool. So can you tell us a little bit more, since Coco is kind of the lead,
Mm-hmm.
how things are going to be unfolding with her and Hudson?
Oh, yes. So,
Because there's a little bit of a teaser there at the end of book 3.
yes. So, Coco, I mentioned that she's been working on her own anxiety issues throughout the series. She has a lot of anxiety about her future. Not that it's going to happen, but just like something big that has to happen for them to move forward, without being like I'm being like super vague to avoid spoilers. It's gonna take some time for her and Hudson to get to where they both want to be. I'm thinking that book 5 is going to address that for folks.
Really? Book
Yes.
5. This is news, folks. I knew about book 4, obviously, because I kind of get to be in the know on some of these things a little bit. This is the first I've heard about a book 5.
It's actually, so the ending of book 4 kind of re-inspired me about where Coco could go. I mentioned like a little bit of a metamorphosis. So it kind of inspired me to explore her world a little bit more. And I'm
excellent.
really, I can fill you in a little bit more too.
Good. That's exciting because Coco and company, they're so much fun.
I do. And that's part of it. I was like, I can't leave these guys behind. Like I got to keep going.
We could spend the hour talking about Jasper and just, and I know he's not, but Jasper makes me think of Jack McFarlane from Will and Grace. Just Jack.
Yes.
Because he's that larger than life character, and just so obviously Jasper may be a little more successful than Jack, but still just that, you gotta love him.
I'm thinking that he's actually Jack and Karen together. Like that's who he is. I've been like trying to figure out like, who is he? But like, that's like the perfect blend of characters. Yeah.
There we go. Hey, speaking of Karen, I was watching A Murder, She Wrote last night. Way back in 1988, Megan Mullally was in it. So
oh, wow.
It was so funny because my wife, Nancy, she has watched Will and Grace, I think probably 3 or 4 times now. And she was commenting that it was just so much fun seeing a young Megan Mullally.
That's too
but
funny.
She couldn't get Karen's voice out of her head. So,
I just can't believe that Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman are together. Like the two like most iconic voices in sitcom are just like together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're just so opposites. Yeah. So, but enough about that. But speaking of metamorphosis, we don't have enough time to talk about your Court of Mystery series because, it deserves its own show. But you recently released the final book in the series, Eternal Empire. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's book 12 of the series.
Book 14, actually.
Well, because I kind of lost track because I started reading. I get to say I'm one of the OG readers.
You are, yeah.
Detective, and from the very beginning. And so then they kind of got renumbered. And so anyway, you've written a lot of stories about Jax and her efforts to solve crime, bring the realm of virtues into a better future. Could you talk a little bit about Eternal Empire, not only maybe the story a little bit, but what was it like kind of bringing Jax's adventures kind of to fruition?
I feel like I'm still a little bit in denial of it because of I know that there are more stories to be told in the realm of virtues. So it wasn't necessarily goodbye, but it was like Jax has definitely earned a break. She's earned her happily ever after. And that's what I really, really wanted. I wanted for her to accomplish what she felt she needed to accomplish. And I wanted her to kind of be able to ride off into the sunset and just like take a break from finding dead bodies. And I like metamorphosis is such like a good word for like how this story has evolved just like over and over again, because it's really goes to show that like I had no idea what I was doing when I first started writing these books. They were just like stories that I wanted to tell. And then as I began exploring bigger themes, bigger story arcs, I began just like learning like the differences between, traditional mystery versus cozy mystery versus, historical fantasy, all of this stuff going on, and trying to figure out like where Jax and her friends belonged. It wasn't really until like last year that, I've always like felt that I couldn't really talk about these books with my other cozies just because, they just like felt too different. But, there have been a lot of members of the cozy mystery community that have started reading them. And they're like, Sarah, like, why don't you talk about these books more? Like, yes, they're different, but they all like, there's this like the overlying themes of, found family, friendship, sleuthing together, amateur sleuths, going after the bad guy. Like it's all there. Yes, it's being done in castles, and yes, people are being poisoned with plants that don't exist in our world, but like, hey, like we can suspend belief in those areas. So it really got me thinking, like, how can I include Jax in my current world now that her story's done? And I think I needed to have everything finished before I was like, okay, like how do I do this? What do I do? And it really, like, the inspiration literally just struck me like 2 Fridays ago, where I was just like, oh, like I just like need to bring that, like, I needed to have like a cohesive, kind of like induction into the Sarah Burr universe, if you will. Because, you have all of my contemporary cozy covers that have like a very, specific art style. The original covers of the Court of Mystery series, which are just stunning. I love them more than anything.
This is what I'm currently reading, folks.
They have a special place in my heart. They have a special place on my wall. I have them all displayed on my writing wall here at home. I love them. They just don't look like the other stories that I tell. It's like, you know what? Like maybe if I had covers that looked like my other books, that looked like more that brought out the cozier elements of Jax's adventures, that maybe that would open the door for more readers to explore them. And so that's like, I have spent like the last like week and a half, like furiously like figuring out like where, like, what do I do? How do I capture these books in a different way, because the originals just captured them so perfectly. And it really came down to the fact that, like, I thought, thinking of the original Nancy Drew books, back in like the 1930s, when you removed the dust jacket, on like the like linen cover was just a black silhouette of Nancy with a magnifying glass. And I was like, that like is so iconic to me that I was like, what if I did something where instead of Nancy with a magnifying glass, I had Jax with a magnifying glass? And once I like had that image, then it just like came out, and I was like, it was such like a fun, creative experience that even though the story is done with, it just like made things really fresh and new for me. And also like being able to revisit, going in and updating like formatting and all of that good stuff. I'm actually going to be including some of the short stories that I've written for the Realm of Virtues in the first 3 novellas. So there's going to be, for folks that signed up for my newsletter, they get access to all of the short stories that I've written for free. So there are going to be a couple that I'm gathering that I think that are kind of important to the lore of Jax's world. And I'm going to be putting those in these like new editions, so that if folks want to build out their collection of the new covers, that they'll be getting some new treats in there as well. But they can always access those stories for free on my website by signing up for my newsletter.
Well, there we go. Yeah. And we had somebody mention earlier on, yes, Sawdust commented that the Court of Mystery audiobooks are really well read too. So
Melissa is like, she is we're getting ready to kick off work on Eternal Empire, the audiobook, I believe in April. So hearing her read like the final chapters is going to be like, I definitely teared up while I was writing them. Like, I can't even imagine like what my experience is going to be like hearing her performance, because she is Jax, she is Jax in my mind. And I'm really happy with how I was able to bring everything together, and that, Jax, like, she sets out with a goal, and what I love about her is that she's someone that I think in like the style of a good leader, that if she finds a different way that maybe like, oh, like the way that I thought to do this wasn't, that there's a better way out there, like I'm perfectly okay, like changing direction or accepting like, oh, the outcome wasn't what I was initially looking for, but this is a better outcome. And so like she's willing to adapt to the world around her if she sees that it's benefiting the greater good. So I'm just really proud of her.
Well, and I want to say that one of the things that I really love about this series, and obviously I've still got some more to go, but is that, as I love episodic television, serialized television is a challenge for me. And I love Jax's stories, because each book you're getting its own self-contained episode, but you have this huge arc that has developed, and that really is just so fascinating. And the way it is, then you've had it dovetail into each of the individual books has just been really fabulous, because it's like, yes, she's doing, each book is another murder investigation, but there's a reason behind it, instead of just having somebody drop dead. And so I've just found that fascinating and entertaining, and I can't wait to continue reading. Like I said, I'm doing Ravaged Reign right now. I've totally had my fill of Perry at this moment. You
and me both.
And I, maybe he's sick, maybe he's not. I'm just saying that, it's like,
I can't wait. I would love in like maybe like 5 years or so, when I feel like I've given people enough time to like read the series through spoiler free. I would love to have like a behind the curtains chat about how the series changed over time, and where things were going, and that big arc that you mentioned, where that came from, and why that arc felt to me like a ooh most of the time, because I was like, where are we going on this? Yeah. So it did tie together very nicely in the end, but it was kind of weird getting there. But speaking of the end, our hour flew by. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
We need to give folks another instance to enter into your fabulous giveaway for a copy of A Murder Under the Marquee.
That's right.
Folks, type in the word beach into the chat if you'd like to enter in. And while folks are doing that, JC, entertainment-wise, in all of your spare time, I feel like I don't feel like spare time exists these days, but what are you doing in the moments between where you're not, day job, writing the next Elmo, trying to figure out social media? What are you consuming these days?
Well, yeah. Well, as you all see, I'm reading Ravaged Reign, that in the Court of Mysteries, and that's a lot of fun. I've also been, I took your advice, and since I actually have to go into work, I've been listening to some audiobooks.
Ooh.
And so that's been a lot of fun. One I just finished, this would be no surprise to anybody, is Squeeze Me by Carl Hyacin. Came out in 2020. It's another one of his madcap crime fiction, Florida, over the top. the thing is that's amazing about this book, it features a wild animal removal specialist. Swear to God, her name is Angie Armstrong, and she's like the female Elmo Simpson. And all I'm going to say is I started writing Elmo in February of 2020. This book didn't come out until August of 2020. So I had no idea this was going on until that there was another crime solver. And then as far as what I'm watching, I've been watching Person of Interest. I think I may have mentioned that last time. That's been really interesting. There's been, and I think really other than that, again, the time has been so precious with the day job that I don't have a whole heck of a lot else other than Murder, She Wrote is the comfort, watch right now. So that's kind of what I'm doing. How about you?
I'm in podcast city right now because I recently got these glasses that are connected to my phone and like play like my podcast without me having to put stuff in my ears.
Are those the big round ones you had on the other day?
Yes, I think so.
I love those, by the way.
They're so cool. I absolutely love them. And they also take pictures. I'm like, so I can like take pictures of Evie like all the time. So I've been just like blowing through new podcasts that I found on Spotify. One called Devil Town, which was really amazing about a unsolved case, but really it was more of like a story about corruption because you kind of know who has done it. Even though they've never been tried in a court of law, but because they had money and influence and like the corruption going on at the DA's office, it was just like wild. It's one of those things. It's like, I can't believe that this was a real thing. And then I am listening to The Unforgotten. Oh wait, no, that was The Unforgotten. Devil Town was a different like episodic or not episodic, serialized podcast that was really good that like led me into this one about corruption. And then watching on TV in the anime world, we've like committed to watching Frieren, which is like this it was like an anime that just like blew up last year, and George and I really enjoy it. It's very calm and very like perfect to watch before going to sleep because it's just like very soothing. And I'm like, why did the whole like anime community love this so much? Because it's not like your typical anime, but it's still really fun. Still love it. I think I mentioned last time this The Sons of Sam, which is a documentary on Netflix that just like goes into this really like big, also a conspiracy about the Son of Sam killer possibly not being like just one person. So that was really, really interesting. Susan has a question for me about who is on my mug. Susan, it's actually a anime caricature of myself from a video game that George and I got them after we got married. Mine says waifu and George's says husbando. And they're just anime characters of ourselves. So that's who it is.
That's adorable.
Yes.
I also want to say, I apologize. I forgot. I want to send a shout out. The other night, watched The Wild Robot. It is nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Film. And oh my God, it is lovely. It's fun. I cried at the end.
Oh, I love that.
The voice work is astounding. So The Wild Robot, check it out.
Is that like a Studio Ghibli film or?
No, it's actually DreamWorks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So it's got some serious Iron Giant vibes, and Iron Giant is my all-time favorite animated film. So so check it out if you haven't done so. It's on Peacock, I think. Anyway.
Peacock? Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm adding that one to my list because I do love a movie that makes me cry. And the end of the show is going to make me cry because this was so fabulous to be able to chat with you, JC. Always a pleasure. Thank you for being here with me this evening.
Well, and Sarah, thank you for addition on what you have going on. Yeah, we need to talk about ourselves more often. This is because we didn't even get a chance to talk about I'm an Agatha Award nominee now. But...
Yes. Yes. Congratulations. You're writing the Cozy Mystery Essays collection, correct?
Yes.
That's very exciting.
collection of essays.
And you might be an Agatha Award winner soon. I feel like that made a splash. That made a splash this year. So fingers crossed. Yes. Folks, thank you to our wonderful studio audience for staying here with us this evening. I know that we're keeping you a little bit later than we normally do. Susan, I'm glad that you enjoyed this. I'm glad that you were able to make it. Hopefully you had fun at your library event. I know that you were coming back from. Our winner also for the giveaway this evening is, and I'm glad that you're here, Susan, because you're our giveaway winner for the Murder Under the Marquee. You're going to love it. It's so good. I love all of your books, Jim. It's just like, there's something about your writing that I was like, you just know how to make people feel good. You know how to write feel good books in a really like engaging, fun way. So this one is just fabulous. I can't wait for more. And, yes, let's talk again soon. I know that we do have a, next week, February 11th, Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be having a bookish moment with our very, very dear friend, Nan Reinhardt. We're finally getting to talk about Anna's love story in River's Edge. I'm so excited. It'll be perfect time for the Valentine's Day holiday that we all have, or Galentine's Day if you celebrate that as well. So I hope that you guys will be able to join us. Susan, please, I have your email, but just send me the email that you want us to send your ebook to. And I will we'll get that on out to you. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your week and have a wonderful weekend. Be warm, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay bookish. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.